Thank you for listening to the BjjBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BjjBrick Podcast. This week, we have episode 328, which is our Thank You BJJ Thanksgiving episode. We're basically going to talk about what we're thankful for with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And, just to start the show off, one thing I'm thankful for is Byron doesn't bully me anymore now that I've known Jiu-Jitsu, and kind of reminds me of a quote by my good buddy, Robert Frost. Never be bullied into silence. Never allow yourself to be made a victim. Accept no one's definition of your life. Define yourself. Byron, what do you think about that quote?
I got it. You know, Gary, you've kind of been picking on Robert Frost here. We've had several of his quotes back to back, and I think maybe this one you like a little bit better. But the second sentence in that. So the first one is never be bullied into silence. The second one is never allow yourself to be made a victim. And I think that's a big part in a lot of things. And clearly, some people are victims of things. That's real. But if you're able to take yourself out of that and don't play the victim, play somebody who has gotten through something, or somebody who has had a difficult time with something, but has gotten past that, and versus the person who walks around and thinks, yeah, I'm a victim, and they have their head down and they're still, kind of dwelling in a negative experience. Try to not be that victim, and whether fitness and exercise helps you get past that, or maybe some mental health with some professionals help you get past that, but you don't want to be made a victim. And if you are, try to have that be a short-term experience instead of a life-changing, long-term experience. And so, Gary, I hope that's the way you've been able to do that with my picking on you. It's been short-term experience, and now you walk around proudly and are able to get some stuff done. Joe, what do you think about Robert Frost's quote here?
You could break this down into three ideas, and I'm gonna go with the last sentence. Accept no one's definition of your life. Define yourself. And I actually think that's kind of key to longevity on the mats and enjoying your jiu-jitsu journey. It's easy to kind of get caught up with a group of guys. Maybe the school is fairly everybody's sort of on the same page as far as their style of jiu-jitsu, or whether or not they're avid competitors or whatever. And maybe that's not necessarily you. And if you just try and be like everybody else in the gym, you may end up being frustrated and not sticking it out. Or maybe a couple of guys that you meet first when you go in, you look up to them, you like their jiu-jitsu, but maybe it doesn't fit your body type all that well, or your personality. Maybe you're not as aggressive as these guys. And if you continue to try and mimic their jiu-jitsu, you may end up being frustrated, not getting a lot out of it, or sticking around very long. So, do jiu-jitsu for the reasons you want to do it. Be the jiu-jitsu player that you want to be. Do what brings you happiness and satisfaction from being on the mats. I think that's key to having a long jiu-jitsu career, if you will, or journey, and enjoying it.
Joe, I haven't said this in a while, but you won the internet again today.
Ding, 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 ding.
No, I mean, that was so spot on. I can think of myself, and, when I was doing jiu-jitsu at first, and there had been times I really wasn't loving jiu-jitsu, and I think it's because I wasn't defining myself. I was trying to be like other people. I thought I had to do this and that. And once I figured out, why I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and how to make jiu-jitsu me, what works for me, not worrying about what everybody else thinks, and just, what makes jiu-jitsu fun for me, and just doing that, and not worrying about if I'm good or not, or if I can pull this off, or if I can tap people out. And, if I feel better playing the bottom game versus the top game, and not caring what anybody says about it. And that's when I really started having fun. And, you hit it spot on right there.
Gary, you're talking
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, Gary, you're talking about the why you're doing this and kind of evaluating some things. Reminds me of the audiobook, Your First Year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Chapter 3 is where I talk about the benefits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I think that that's an important chapter in the book, because if you show up for one reason or another and you accomplish that, maybe you want to lose 20 pounds and you get in there and you lose 20 pounds, or maybe it's hard and the weight isn't coming off as quickly as you have thought. Highlighting some of the other benefits is a big reason to help keep you coming back to the mat throughout that first year. And there's some other chapters in the book, obviously, about different techniques and dealing with off the mat life and getting that to fit, with your on the mat life. But it's an audio book called Your First Year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's 2.5 hours long. It's just me talking to you and trying to get you through that first year with a smile on your face. It's $11.99. There'll be a link to the BjjBrick shop in the show notes. Go there and you'll find the book right there, and it'll pop right up, and you can download it and hopefully get you through your first year. And whether you're just starting jiu-jitsu or about to start, or maybe you're on your 6th month and you're feeling a little bit frustrated, the book will help you out.
Just in time for Christmas. Go get your copy
this
now.
This is basically the season, isn't it, Gary or Joe?
Yeah. We joke about that all year long in April and May and June. Forget all about it in November and December.
Yep. The crazy thing is, Byron and I were training yesterday morning, and Byron was rolling right next to me, and I was rolling with somebody else, and it was so funny because this guy goes, "I'm going to do backwards grappler and pass this side." And I just started laughing, and I yelled over to Byron. I was like, "Hey, Byron, this guy's doing backwards grappler." So, but that's from Byron's 6th BJJ game book, which is another book that's in the shop there too. Check it out. But, it's cool to just realize all the people that are buying these books and using them. And it was neat to actually just have somebody use one of Byron's audiobooks while I was training with that person. So kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool, Gary. Thanks for pointing that out while we were rolling. You called it out. Joe, do you have I think he got mad, though, because he got tapped real quick getting outside of it. Getting outside of his comfort zone. Yeah, getting outside of your normal gameplay, and it does cause you some troubles. But that's just part of trading, and I think that realizing that you're going to do that helps. But
the best part is it doesn't just help you. It helps your training partner, too. When he was doing it to me, I now have to work a little bit differently and get better at this side. So 2 great audiobooks. I know, Byron, you were trying to cut this short on audiobooks, but I had to throw out the other one, too, just because of what happened. But great audiobooks there.
So, yeah, it brings us to our off-the-mat lesson. Each week we talk about generally something that's happened in our lives where we've learned a lesson, maybe as it relates to life in general, but also that we can drag on the mat and help us improve our jiu-jitsu in some way. And if you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that Byron likes to pull practical jokes on his co-host. Usually it's Gary. Man, I always get a kick out of those.
Yeah, usually it's weekly as well.
Usually. Always.
Yes. Occasionally I get to play the part of the victim. Speaking of being a victim, man, about two years ago, has it been that long? I routinely, there's a function on Skype where you can call a testing service and make sure that all of your equipment's working fine. Yeah, so I call this testing service and I get a recorded message. Some lady with a British accent says, "Hello, welcome to Skype call testing," and then I say something and then it gets played back to me and I know everything's working fine. And I don't know, somehow Byron got in on one of these calls, like I had a 3-way call going, and so he had that damn thing recorded. And throughout the episode, he kept plugging this thing in, and Byron and Gary pretend they didn't hear the chick, and I'm, oh my goodness, it was nuts. Good prank, probably the best one been played on the show. Kudos, Byron. But the point is, Byron and Gary both gave me a lot of crap because I kept doing this call testing thing. Like, you've been doing the show for a year already. You can't get your equipment set up and just, be confident that it works. Well, they pulled that prank on me, and I still call the testing service every week before we record. This morning, the office about more time to record. I placed the call. I couldn't hear the Skype lady. I'm like, damn it. So I start doing some digging around. Turns out I'd restarted my computer, and when that happened, Skype set to default, and so the speakers were not set up properly. So I fixed that and then tried again, and then I couldn't hear myself. And it turned out my microphone had been turned off. When I'm home at my home office, the only time I shut the door is when we're recording for the BjjBrick. Otherwise, it's open, and I let my grandson come in and out. He's got a little keyboard he sets up next to me, and he puts on headphones and does his own little
awesome.
does his own little podcasting. But I never know what's going to get turned on and off or unplugged and plugged in the wrong port. And so Gary and Byron can tease me all they want. I still do my weekly test call before we record. And I think the point as this relates to jiu-jitsu is, if you've got a routine that works for you, like a pre-class routine, you leave at the same time, you pack the same stuff, you eat the same meal or type, you get a little bit of nutrients. After class, if you got a routine that's working for you, stick to it. Don't let anybody pressure you into abandoning it, or don't let time constraints press you out of abandoning it. If you've got a routine when you get to the gym, you warm up, you stretch, whatever you got, if it's working for you, keep doing it. And it's that life lesson this week is just that simple.
Joe, you talked about your microphone was turned off. Byron actually does that on purpose.
He comes a remote and just silences it.
Yeah, trying to make the show better. So you probably see that a lot.
Well, guys, to be honest, I haven't listened to a lot of episodes since I joined the show. Occasionally, I'll go listen to an interview that Byron does if it's a good one.
If it's a good one?
Well, they're all good.
It comes out.
If the microphone's turned off.
They're all good. But, some people you're more familiar with, other people you've been looking forward to. So long story short, I don't listen to many of the episodes. This could be the longest prank ever. I could be sitting down every week doing this crap, and the BjjBrick's going out every week, and I'm not even on it.
Thanks for the idea.
Yeah, Joe. I do like the idea of having a routine to kind of keep things in order. I do the same thing, Joe. I did do a Skype call test before I got this thing going. And it makes it easier. I do one before interviews. That way, if there's trouble, I get it fixed before I try to call the person, and they have to deal with my mistake. It's different if they have an error on their end. We can work through that, but I'm supposed to be the professional, attempted to be a professional here. So, yeah, I use that same thing, Joe, and that's why I was familiar with it, and the prank was even easier to pull off.
It was classic, though. That was maybe the best prank you've done.
I'm thankful for your positive attitude towards being messed with, Joe and Gary. You both have taken some pranks pretty well with smiles, and I am thankful for that, and thankful for you guys on this show as well. Start off as a mushy thing. You guys, you're here every week. And we're not making money with this show. We're what money we do make, we try to either basically try to grow the show and make it better and more stable. Maybe someday we'll make a little bit of income, but right now it's still a passion project, and that's where we're at. And I'm thankful for that you guys have been along for this ride. We're now at episode 328, and Joe came along somewhere. I don't remember what episode, but both of you guys have donated countless hours to talking about jiu-jitsu over Skype. And that's impressive. And we do see rewards with the community and our audience as they've gotten some benefits out of it. But very grateful for you two.
I'm gonna one up you on that one, Byron. We're talking about things we're grateful for in jiu-jitsu, and most of the people that I've come across in jiu-jitsu would love to have some type of a bigger involvement in the jiu-jitsu community than they have. And oftentimes they'd like to be teaching class. They'd like to be running their own school, whatever it is. They'd love to have a bigger role in the jiu-jitsu community. And I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to deny that I was one of those guys. And when I started listening to BjjBrick, I don't know what episode you guys were on, but I've got a lot of drive time at work. So I just started episode 1 and running through them. It was helpful then listening to you guys. At the time, I thought you guys were kind of smart. Since
you just learned about us.
But anyway, you guys started talking about, hey, if somebody wants to write an article, send it in. And I thought, oh, that's great. So I wrote, I think the first one I sent you guys was like 5 things everyone should get on their first day at class. They should get a welcome. They should, get a good roll. I don't remember what all the 5 points were, but I think that was the first one. Or maybe that was the first one you called me on the air. I don't remember. All I know is I wrote an article. You guys talked about it. A couple weeks later, I wrote another one. Eventually, you guys invited me on the air to talk about an article. And then one thing led to another. And I've been on the show now for, has it been 2 years, Byron?
I don't know. I'm not
year and a half
keeping track of that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
I'm just going to say, I've said it before, 3-4 times a month, we spend an hour or 2 on Skype on the weekends, and it's not an imposition. It's one of the highlights of my week. The support we get from the jiu-jitsu community is awesome. So yeah, I'm grateful for the BjjBrick. I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Well, thanks, Joe. And you're definitely probably the first or second best member on the show. Definitely not the third most valuable.
We talked about that the other week.
Yeah, we did.
From the Fat.
And Gary's pretty sure he's the second.
Yeah, I had you with one of the best, Joe.
Yeah, I saw that title of that episode that I wasn't able to be on, Trim the Fat, and I thought, are we downsizing? No.
But yeah, this has been fun. It's been good having you on here, Joe. And Joe's just like he explained. He wrote a couple articles for the show. Eventually, hey, let's have this guy on here and talk about the article. That'd be easy. And you were natural. You were great. And we, hey, how about just you want to record an episode? And it wasn't. I think it was maybe the second or third episode you were on with us, and Gary and I were having some troubles before. We always call and then we chat for 5 or 10 minutes before we start recording to get things up to speed. And we were going through something, and we're having a little bit of trouble. And Joe, you were like, I thought this was, being a fan or a listener, I thought this was like a real professional and organized, and listening to beforehand, I get to see how the sausage is made, so to speak. And it's like a little surprising.
Yeah, I can tell you for this episode, I woke up 3 minutes before we started. So that's how professional I am.
Well, when you're a natural, you're a natural, Gary. It's not like you need a lot of prep time or.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to write an article for the show, we'd love to. If you have your own website, we'll link to that and that sort of thing. But if you don't, write an article, send it to us, BjjBrick@gmail.com, and we'll be able to host it on our website. And we don't. We have, I think 3 is a great number for the show. 4, I think, would be a bit too many. But we definitely are able to have more input from you guys through articles.
Well, I know Joe and I have been talking about that. If we can get more people to send in articles, maybe we can find somebody to take Byron's place. And that's what Joe and I were talking about. Yeah, so that could be, pretty beneficial to this show.
Yeah, cut the bottom third and then bring somebody else in. And then next year, cut the bottom third again, whoever that would be.
That would be me.
Well, nobody wants to do all the work that Byron's doing. So, Gary, I think we're going to have to keep him around just because I'm too lazy to pick up all the slack. So.
Yeah, but we could have him as off-air non-talent.
Oh, he's our support. Yeah, technical support. Okay. Yep.
That could be done. We'll see. Let's hit the topic of just jiu-jitsu and being grateful. There's a few big ones for me that I have, and I'll just float those out there. I think the first one is social, paired next quickly with it counts as a benefit towards my health, like I'm getting a workout. So just think of this. I have the option between going to the gym and working out and suffering through that process, because that typically, and I do go to the gym at least weekly and try to get a workout in, kind of off the mat workout, maybe 2 or 3 times a week if I'm really getting after it. But in reality, I get to go to a place where there are 10 to 30 of my friends hanging out. Like, oh, that's fun. What's going on there? And then we work out. But the workout is enjoyable to a large degree, not when I'm getting smashed or whatever, but the workout's fun. And so I think I found a loophole in fitness in that I get to go to a place where my friends are, and the workout is also fun. It would be similar to, like, I think some people that do like dance classes or that sort of thing. They go, it's a social group. My mom does, she goes to a dance class every week, and it's a bunch of women her age. They go and they listen to music and do these dances, and it counts as fitness too. And I think she just loves the whole process of that, being with her friends at certain, I think it's Wednesday night every week, and it counts, and then she gets a good workout out of it. It's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. I go, and even if I don't feel like working out, I do feel like seeing my friends and catching up with them. And then when I get there, working out is super fun. And man, that is quite it's a life hack. Like, fitness has been fun, and the people around it are also enjoyable. Those are two of the big things that I really enjoy about jiu-jitsu.
Well, I'm glad your mom found a dance class that works for her. My experience was not as pleasant at dance class. It started when they gave me the outfit. I'm like, what the heck is this? What are all those poles doing on the dance floor? Anyway. No.
You look good in the outfit, though, Joe.
Yeah, you pull it off better than any of me or Gary.
Okay.
Literally pull it off.
What do you know? That's how you make your money, buddy. Now, I think one of the things that I'm most grateful about jiu-jitsu, I was having a conversation with actually a listener of the show the other day that's mostly a judo practitioner, and he sent me just a message. Says, hey, I'm watching ESPN, and they've got some sort of skateboarding thing going on, and there's all these guys in their 40s and 50s that are tearing it up in a pool. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, and it just kind of goes to show that sports like that can be available to everybody. But then we had a longer conversation about jiu-jitsu and judo and that kind of stuff. And because he made a comment, I said, well, that's why they say jiu-jitsu is for everyone. He says, well, I personally kind of don't think jiu-jitsu is for everyone. I think judo is for even fewer people. And so we started talking about like judo, and if there was a high school style or collegiate style wrestling club, those kind of practices, their methodology for training and the way that they approach it, man, most of us, if we tried something like that in our 40s and 50s, we wouldn't make it a week. It's not really sustainable. Jiu-jitsu is such that, I'll give you for instance, I don't mind starting on my feet when it's open mat time, but I also am not above just starting on my knees. I'm an old guy, and I've never slapped and bumped with a guy and then got down on my knees to start the roll and had him look at me like, this is going to be a waste of my time. Never had anybody else look over and be like, that old guy can't even start from his feet. And my training partner just gets down on his knees. I don't spend a lot of time knee fighting. One of us just kind of starts to pull guard, and we just start rolling. And that's a training methodology that makes it available for everybody. And so it's not just the methodology, but it's the attitude within the group as well. So I'm grateful that at 52 years old, I can continue to do this. And I'm grateful that I can invite one of my friends who's also 50 and never done jiu-jitsu before. I can invite him to class and know that he can have a good experience, know that he's not going to get hurt, and know that he's likely to come back and try it at least another time. So that's one of the things I'm most grateful for in this sport.
I like it, Joe. This is a sport that I really plan on doing till I pass. I'm going to be doing this into my 70s.
By the time you pass that guard.
Yeah, Gary, if you paid any attention in class, you'd be able to pass by now.
True. true. But it is a sport for everybody. That's a big benefit right there. But going back to the thankfulness, I'm thankful for what it has done for like my mental health, for my stress level. Going back to what Byron said, I'm hanging out with my buddies. I do jiu-jitsu. The people I do it with, I sweat with them. I work out hard with them, blood, sweat, and tears. You develop that bond, and we have a good time. When I'm at jiu-jitsu, I'm not thinking about any other stressor that has went on in my life. And it's like I go there, I have fun. It's a sport I love to do. And then on top of that, I'm doing it with fun people that are my teammates, that are my friends. And man, the high that I get, I mean, it's a natural drug. The high that I get when I'm done, and it lasts for a long time. And like, there's no better feeling for me than, doing jiu-jitsu, and I just forget about everything that has happened in my life. It just changes my mood around as soon as I'm done with jiu-jitsu. So, we just talked about passing, and you guys just made fun of me on that, but I'm telling you, the health benefits of jiu-jitsu. First of all, keeping some weight off. Second of all, taxing your cardio. Third of all, being flexible and strong. But fourth of all, just clearing your head, reducing that stress level. All that stuff will make me have a longer life.
Yeah, good one, Gary. Another thing that I personally have gotten from jiu-jitsu is, in a roundabout way, it's helped me become a firefighter. I was training jiu-jitsu, and we ever since I've started, there's been police officers there, and shortly after, a few firefighters have been coming in, and got to talking with the guys on the fire side of things. And they love their job, and they describe what some of the calls that they would go on, and this and that. I'm like, man, that sounds really cool. And so I started to talk with a couple of them about what it would be like what the process is to get qualified to apply for the job. And they walked me through those steps. They kind of explained to me what the job is like. And every time I'm like, yes, this sounds good. This sounds good. And so having somebody from the inside, because I don't have a lot of firefighters have family that's already on the department, and they kind of bring them in through that way. That's very common. But to kind of have a little bit of information as far as helping me walk through some of the steps, talked to a few people before my interview. One of the captains I was talking to set me up with an interview with a chief, and he's just giving me a little bit of advice about how to talk about myself in a productive way to be prepared for my interview. The interview is very competitive. I think they interviewed like 100 people and they hired 12. So you got to go in there and you got to hit a home run. There's no way you can't hit a home run and get that job. And so kind of all these things help me not just want to go that direction, but actually help me get the job as a firefighter, and just the people on the mats, the handful of firefighters that I got to meet and train with that stepped up and guided me in that direction. Very grateful for that. So social relationships, friends, but also there's a lot of off the mat opportunity when you get to talking and get to know each other off the mats that anybody can benefit from. I know Gary's had people come work on his fence and do housework, and Joe's in the same thing. He's got buddies in the construction business that have done work with him when he's needed it as well.
Yep, absolutely. That's a big benefit to this community. Anytime you shed blood, sweat, and tears with people on a regular basis, you get really close to them. And I think that's one of the keys to jiu-jitsu, why we're so close. But yeah, if you go to a gym, you're probably going to have people there that are involved in the legal profession, people that are involved in law enforcement, construction, auto sales or repairs. I mean, just you name it. And I'm willing to bet that all these people, any of these people, are 100% willing, in fact, even eager to be able to help their teammates out if an opportunity ever arises.
Another thing I really am grateful for about jiu-jitsu is the community as a whole, and we're a little different because we're podcasters, so we're interacting with a variety of people that you don't usually get to interact with, different athletes and different coaches. But just even if that's not you, which most likely you don't also have a jiu-jitsu podcast, but even if that's not you and you go travel, we've all done this. You go travel somewhere. My most recent one went to Iceland, and it was like when I got on the mats and it, started warming up and some of the coaches came and talked to me or whatever, it was like I was home. And yes, I'm thousands of miles from home. I'm in a place, that I can't speak the native language. Most of them spoke English though, but you just are in a really, foreign place. And I'm like, this is home. This is great. I'm grateful for that. And I've had that time and time again. You end up in a city where you don't know anybody and you can walk into a place and meet a dozen people or 24 people and end up with a couple of buddies who would be willing to just point you to the next restaurant or help you if you have car trouble, a couple days, whatever. Like, it's really nice the way that the community has been towards welcoming in others as far as guests from the community. And I'm really grateful. Jake Fox is the same thing. So we have listeners coming. We say, hey, always come train with us. Gary and I in Wichita, and Joe's, in Lake Jackson, Texas, south of Houston. And grateful. Anytime we've had anybody that wants to come train, Jake Fox has had like an open door. Like, anytime you get a listener, let them know, and we'll get them in here and they can train. Absolutely. And that's been really cool as well. So really grateful for the open door policy as far as traveling, and then just friendly people throughout the community as well.
Byron, you make a good point about the community. Jiu-jitsu is a tight community. Like Joe just said, the blood, sweat, and tears. You get very tight. You have respect for anybody who does it. It's a tough sport to do. But, I think about some of the stuff that the community does for others. We've got the We Defy Foundation, helping out veterans. And, I even think about all the fundraisers, per se. I can think here in Wichita, one of ladies who had been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time had cancer, and everybody, there was a open marathon where money was raised for this person, and it was done at another gym. And everybody in this jiu-jitsu community they're always willing to give back. They're always willing to help somebody in need. And like you said, Byron, there's always an open door. But the community has just done so much. It just seems like, I've done other sports and I still do other sports, but it doesn't seem like the community at other sports I've done, will do as much as the BJJ community to help each other out. So it's kind of a unique community that really gives back.
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. I can't say enough about the community. One of the things I really appreciate is that it's an anchor in my life, and it's like it's always there for you. Have you guys ever seen anybody come to jiu-jitsu that's been out for a month or 3 months or 5 months, and they're not just fully welcomed back with open arms, and nobody even really cares why you left? It's rarely a surprise. Within the community, we don't have a student drop out for 5 or 6 months and come back and everybody's like, we forgot about him. Who is this guy? We don't know why he was gone. Generally, there's guys keeping in touch with people. I don't unfriend somebody on Facebook that sent me a friend request because we had jiu-jitsu in common, and then 6 months later, they've sort of faded out and they're on to other things in life. We're still friends, and that's one of the things I like about the community. It's not like you don't get excommunicated for missing a Sunday.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it is nice to see people come back to jiu-jitsu after being off for whatever reason. Like seeing an old friend. So we also threw this one on the private Facebook group and said, hey, we're going to be doing an episode on Thanksgiving talking about things we're thankful for in jiu-jitsu. Do you guys have any input? And I'll take this one here. Jake Fox, he's like, the team. He had a 2-word answer. I was like, Jake, what about the team? Are you thankful for? I teased him a little bit. He's my coach. I train with him all the time. And he's like, well, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's a source from the top. Andre Montero is his coach, mentor, and friend. He's taught him a lot about jiu-jitsu and business and that sort of thing. He's thankful for his fellow black belts who help run the school, take different classes and run different things. His coaching staff, the people that run the kids' classes and kickboxing. He says, I don't have a passion for kickboxing, but he has a great kickboxing coach who loves it. And man, what a great addition to the gym that is. And then, of course, the students. He's grateful for those students that they're there for him, they're supportive, they trust in his vision of jiu-jitsu and how good that is. So, he also mentions his family as being very supportive and understanding with what he's doing for jiu-jitsu. So that was a good one, Jake. I think we're all sort of the people who are around us who are helping us on the mats, aka our team.
Yeah, we got another good one here, and I probably wouldn't have thought of this on my own, but I really do appreciate it. Frank Lee wrote in that he's grateful for professors being forward and honest 9 out of 10 times on critique. Sometimes in a market where you're paying the guy to teach you jiu-jitsu and he's making a living off that, it's tempting for the instructor to tell people what they want to hear because you want guys to keep coming back. But I don't think you run into that too much. I think if you ask your instructor, hey, give me some critique, I don't think they're going to hold any punches. They watch you roll and they're going to say, you're just not using frames. That's why you're getting crushed and bottom all the time. You're not, or you're not utilizing your grips. You're not winning the grip battle. You'll never pass, Gary, until you can start to win the grip battle. And so that was something I hadn't thought about before, but I definitely appreciate it. If I ask any of my instructors or any of my teammates to give me some feedback, I know that they're going to give me an honest answer.
You know what I like about Frank Lee's post is he was just coming back to jiu-jitsu, just kind of like what we were talking about. He had taken some time off, and then his coach, welcome back, Frank. Start slow and rebuild. Kind of just like what we were talking about.
Yeah, that's interesting to kind of loop back in there.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a couple things that we just talked about too. I'm going to go hit Rolo Polo. And it's kind of like what Joe was talking about. Rolo says, the fact that I can enjoy this sport throughout all phases of my life. Not too many sports give you too many opportunities as you get older. And, it is true. The older sports, and if you want to compete in this sport, you don't necessarily have to go against the young 20-year-olds if you're 60. You can do an IBJJF contest and get people your own age. And, I can tell you I'm a basketball player, but I don't see basketball leagues for people 50 to 55 years old. When I go out and play basketball, I'm competing against these 20-year-olds that are totally smoking me. So it is nice the fact that it is a sport you can do as you get older, and there are so many seasoned. I will say seasoned to be PC correct, seasoned individuals like Joe and myself and Rolo Polo that we can, keep training this for a long time, injury free.
Yeah.
I wonder if Rolo Polo is his real name.
Why would you think that's not a real name?
Yeah, I don't know. Could be. Hey, what my favorite response was, and I think everybody can relate to this. Paul Kinsey wrote in and said, I am thankful that my wife still has no idea how much I spend at BJJ Fanatics. So that's a funny response. But I'll tell you one thing I believe is true. Most of our wives, our significant others, they know how much we spend on jiu-jitsu. And the thing that I'm grateful for, and I'm sure Paul in a more serious moment would agree, is that my wife knows how much I spend and she doesn't care. Because she sees the value of jiu-jitsu in my life. And so I think that's an awesome thing. He also said he's grateful for his academy at SBG, keeping the mats clean. They have a high standards there. And I think most people would agree on that. There's nothing better than a clean gym. So, but yeah, Paul, I have a feeling your wife really knows how much you spend and she's just okay with it.
Our friend Jordan here said thankful for his coach and helping him get out of some bad spots off the mat. and that's one thing that that coaches or teammates can do sometimes for people, is just kind of help them out. Like, hey man, you should be training instead of going out and doing things that aren't healthy for you. It just kind of bridge that gap between coach / friend / mentor, and you're kind of in a unique place where many people aren't able to kind of give that advice where it would be heard the same. Because I'm sure, I don't know the particulars, but I'm sure that anybody who's kind of going like in a bad direction or live in a kind of a harder lifestyle, people are telling that person, or trying to help that person not do those things. But having the authority of a coach or a close teammate could be very valuable in getting that message to be actually heard by those ears. So, good one, Jordan.
We also had a couple, talking about our teammates, our training partners. Bogdan Krumov talks about my training partners, except those who try to kill me, even when I tell them I'm new and injured. We've all had that happen. But, the training partners is what makes it fun. We talked about that all day today. And Joe Sorensen always talked about the same thing. I'm thankful for my teammates and coaches along this journey. And then he goes back to another thing we talked about. I'm thankful for the BJJ community, traveling around the world and training with people who always treat me like family. And I know Joe travels a lot. He trains a lot of different places. But, like Bogdan and Joe say, the teammates. And, we both have, or all three of us have talked about that today. It's, man, I know I talked about it, stress relief, but, man, just seeing your friends, have your friends tease you a little bit. Before you start jiu-jitsu, you're just talking about, what you did for the last couple of days since I haven't seen you. Maybe talk about a sporting event that was on TV, or, who knows what you're talking about. And then, so you see your buddies, you're teasing each other, you're getting in a good mood, and then all of a sudden you get on the mat and you just have fun. It's a physical chess game. And, I am thankful for the teammates. I'm thankful for everybody I've met along this journey.
Yeah. Jamie comments and says she is thankful for her coach, Keith Asbury, learning self-defense techniques, the BJJ community, and overall how much Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has improved her life. So thank you, Jamie. I'll end my thankfulness on this, just having a general evaluation of your life and thinking, man, it's going pretty good, and appreciate that. If you're able to train jiu-jitsu on a regular basis, you're doing something that, unless you're professional, that you're doing for fun, and that you're doing like a leisure activity or a hobby. Maybe not leisure, it would be a little bit too, you go in there, it's not leisurely, but you're doing something for fun. Occasionally I'll pack up my stuff in my car, get my gi and stuff ready, and I'll drive across town, and I think, man, isn't it crazy that I'm able to take time out of my day and go roll around on the mats with people. And that's part of my lifestyle. That's weird. Like, I don't know how many generations ago, I don't know how much free time, my father had, or his father, but at some point in time, a couple generations back, all people did was work and make money to have food and to have a place to live. And I and many of you guys are in a place where we're able to do things that are fun in our lives and enjoyable. And maybe we do this with our family. Maybe we do those and get exercise. Maybe we do those, with our good friends on the mats. But it's just like the whole process is kind of nuts when you think about it. I'm in a place where I don't have to worry about my next meal. I don't have to worry about keeping this roof over my head. And I can go roll around on the mats and geese and choke each other. Like, that's kind of weird, but it's really nice. I'm grateful for that. And a little piece of advice I would give is to tell people thank you. So it does, having taught some seminars, it feels really good. Somebody come up to you, hey, thanks for the seminar. I really learned this about it, or like this detail that you showed. Tell your coach thank you. Tell somebody after a roll thank you for the roll. I enjoyed it. Just if you throw out a couple of thank yous per class or per week or whatever, like, it makes you a more pleasant person to be around, and it not only shows them that you appreciate them, but it enforces in your own mind that you're having a good time and that you're appreciating the people you're around. So tell people thank you, not just on Thanksgiving, not just gratitude then, but throughout the year.
One thing that is unique about jiu-jitsu, we've talked about it before, and it's something that I'm thankful for. You look at groups like the BJJ fanatics and the guys that come in and they make the instructionals. Of course, they're making some money off it. It's part of how they make their living, but they're so accessible. You can post a question at BJJ Fanatics and you get it answered by Bernardo or by any of the athletes that have participated in making instructionals there. It's like there's this community of experts that will personally interact with you, answer your questions. I guarantee you that there's not a group of a dozen of the top NBA players that are sitting around monitoring social media. And if you're a high school basketball player, you can't just say, I'm having trouble with my left-handed layups. And you're not going to get LeBron James or Zion or one of these top guys come on and give you personal advice. So one thing I really like about jiu-jitsu is how accessible some of the top guys are to the rest of us.
And Joe, you talk about how accessible some of these guys are. I mean, just look on who posted on our page. Paul Kinzia posted there. I don't know if you guys know who Paul is, but if you Google his name, you'll see he writes books. I've read Master Jiu-Jitsu, Master Life. It's incredible. It's an awesome book that shows the parallels that, as your master in jiu-jitsu, your master in life at the same time. But, Paul's always posting, here's a guy, I think of a really high level guy. And here he is posted in our little page. But hey, I know I'm not here to plug Paul's book, but, Google Paul, check out, read his book, buy his book, Master Jiu-Jitsu, Master Life. It's another thing I'm thankful for. It's uplifting when you're reading that. It'll make you realize how thankful you are with everything jiu-jitsu has and will do for you.
Yeah, that's a good one, Gary. And I think for pointing that out about what the work that Paul has done, it's a good book. I think,
and he doesn't just jiu-jitsu. He's got get yourself out of debt stuff too. There.
Yeah, very knowledgeable person that's sharing his knowledge. Guys, I think this brings us to our article of the week. That being said...
Hold on, Byron.
Yes.
Byron. I am thankful for the article of the week.
Well, that's nice. So how about this, my friends? Go to the Facebook page, BjjBrick. We've got one. We're kind of a big deal. And comment on the episode, what you're thankful for about jiu-jitsu. And we'd like to see that there as well. But the article this week, and we're continuing our off-the-mat articles as far as other sports, other businesses and industries, and kind of learning lessons from them. This article is Make a Splash, 5 Ways to Get Better at Swimming. My friends, what do you guys think about this? Are you guys good swimmers?
I'm garbage.
So a couple years ago, I was swimming laps. I got out of the pool and went in the sauna. I was sitting in there next to this old dude, and we're watching some other people swim. And he just looks over at me and in a nice way says something about, how come you flounder and look like a drowning raccoon or something when you swim? I was like, damn it, man, I'm trying. So, no, I'm not a good swimmer, but I get in a pool. I love being in the water. I'm good in the water, but like doing a crawl stroke, man, I've just never got all the timing and coordination and breathing, and it just, man, it's a struggle. But to do a breaststroke or to swim underwater, I'm good in the water. But man, I can't do this. I can't do the crawl stroke, apparently.
Yeah. That's funny, Joe. One of the things that they have on here for advice is using a kickboard. So using a different tool. So not just swimming, but doing something a little bit different with your swimming. So a kickboard is something you hold, it floats, and you don't use your arms at all, and you kick your legs to propel yourself, which it's strange, but a lot of swimming is arms. So they just paddle better. Although the muscles aren't as big, except for with Gary, your arms just get you through the water better than your legs can kick. You kick very hard and your legs get tired. But when you use this paddleboard, it does work your leg muscles and work that core. And it's a good way to kind of build that strength in your legs to to make you have an efficient kick in the water. And that's something that's kind of neat as far as don't actually swim. Don't do your crawl stroke. Use a paddleboard and work on one part of your swimming, which is your leg work, and get that developed. I think we could think about that a lot in jiu-jitsu when we positional spar. We're not just rolling; we're working from the back position, and when that dissolves or comes to an end, we do that again, and that's kind of a similar method of focused training is always going to be beneficial.
One thing I can't help but think about when I read through this is every piece of advice that this author has, every point here, it involves swimming, but it's not really swimming. There's something
nice.
It reminds me of 6 Games for BJJ. And if you haven't bought Byron's book, 6 Games for BJJ, or maybe you're not in the market to buy a new book, the concept is still valid. When you roll, if you set limitations, there's one in here talking about changing up your stroke a little bit, almost like doing one-armed strokes. Instead of both arms moving fluidly, you do one stroke and then you do the other stroke. And if you've been swimming for any length of time, that's going to seem very awkward for you at first. It would be sort of like trying to grapple left-handed if you're a right-handed individual and doing everything backwards. And so it's interesting that here's another sport. It's not jiu-jitsu, but they're using that same concept of adding challenges and changing things up. And in the end, it just makes you a better swimmer. So it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu.
That is totally true, Joe. I'm thinking of the one, the last point, count your strokes.
Yeah, I knew you were going to take that one, Gary.
No, I'm not going to go down that path, though. But, count your strokes. He's basically just talking about, slow down a little bit. Think about technique. Think about breathing. We got to be able to breathe in jiu-jitsu or we're going to get tired. Think about tempo and, focusing on technique before speed. And, same thing with jiu-jitsu. We learn to move and, we got to learn how to do it properly. If we just try to do it as fast as we can, it's going to hinder us. It's going to, weigh us down. We're going to end up at the bottom of the pool instead of the top of the pool.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like, Joe already won the internet today, but pointing out that none of these are just swimming, so we could think of this, how do you get better at jiu-jitsu? Well, part of it's rolling, but there's a lot of ways other than rolling. Your positional sparring, you're learning technique, you're, getting in better shape. Like all these things are also factors and how to change those. That's a really good point there, Joe. And Gary, I knew you were going to take that last one about count your strokes. It's an important thing to measure your progress and how far you're going.
Yep. Who knew that stroking could be so complex and complicated? You break it down and perfect your technique, but I guess you can. I like the point
Otherwise,
before this.
Some people, when they do it, end up looking like they're drowning in the water, Joe.
Drowning raccoon. Yeah, I'm not much of a swimmer. I like the second to the last point. This will be my last comment on this article, but it says mix it up, and it's talking about working on different swimming strokes and than you usually do. Good swimmers, by the time they get up to probably the high school, certainly by the time they're in college level, they've started to focus on one or two. They'll either do the backstroke, the breaststroke, or they'll do the crawl stroke. It's hard to be really, really proficient at the half a dozen or dozen or whatever main swimming strokes are. So they'll specialize. And the same thing happens in jiu-jitsu. The further along you get, the more you find yourself leaning towards one grappling style, and you have a small collection of techniques and submissions that work well for you. And that's your main game, as my coach calls it. And that's what you spend most of your time working on. But it's good to get out of your comfort zone and work on some other things. If you're mostly a top player, just work your guard game for a while. Do some guard pulls. You might kind of frown on that, but it's something that'll just help you become a more complete grappler. And in the process, you'll get better at a few things that will translate to your main game. So go ahead and mix it up a little bit. Train some things that you don't train every day.
Good point, guys. And we'll put a link to the article in the show notes and go check it out. And maybe you're going to make a splash this Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to make a splash with all the extra food I'm going to be eating.
So we're going to end up with better cannonballs. Gary,
hey, Byron, I don't want to know anything about your balls.
Well, cannon is the way that I described it. What's your guys' favorite Thanksgiving food?
Turkey.
Man, I got a sweet tooth. I like the candied yams.
Candied?
Y'all have candied yams up there, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure what that is. Is it like they put nuts on top of it? Dang it. Why did I say that? Like pecans on top of it?
Maybe at your house, Byron.
Nobody eats my cooking anyway. I don't know what a kidney
sweet
jam
potatoes,
is.
I think they're oftentimes called, with glazed. I think there's brown sugar in the glaze, and they put marshmallows on top, and they serve it as like part of the entree, but it's really just dessert that you're having with your meal. So
it counts as a vegetable.
Something like that.
Well played. Yeah, I'm familiar with that dish. Sometimes
Byron, what's
put
your
nuts
favorite?
I just like the mix. I like the mix of the turkey, the stuffing, potatoes, gravy, candied yams. I like pie as well. I kind of like it all. So
you like a mix. What does your first plate have on it?
It's got it's packed and everything is touching everything, and I rarely eat a bite of one thing at a time. Like I'm getting a bite of turkey with some potatoes or stuffing, and like green bean casseroles on there as well. It's got everything, man. I make a big kind of fool of myself on Thanksgiving afternoon.
I like that, Byron. You make it big.
But so hopefully you guys are able to have a good Thanksgiving. Listening to this, hopefully we've been a small part of that week. And if you're listening to this maybe 6 months out, still be thankful for things. It's all good. Another thing we're thankful for is our Patreon supporters. Man, they've been with us through some thick and thin times, that's for sure. And what the Patreon supporters are doing is supporting us every episode. They pledge $1, $2, or $3 per episode, and at the end of the month, that pledge comes up, and we really appreciate that support. It helps us do what we're doing here. We're very grateful for that. I'd like to give a shout out to Thomas, Rodney, and Dwayne for their continued support on Patreon. You guys are great. Really grateful for everybody on Patreon. You guys know who you are. If you do sign up as a Patreon supporter, the new members, you guys get a 5-inch BjjBrick gi patch, and I also send you out a sticker. I will mail this envelope anywhere in the world, and so it doesn't matter what country you are in. And also, you can join the private Facebook group. This is a Facebook group that you have to be invited to. So send me a message at bjjbrick@gmail.com once you sign up on Patreon, and I'll send you the link to the private Facebook group. And that's where we got some of the comments about their thankfulness about jiu-jitsu this week was from the private group. So that was cool as well to have that. All right, I've had a good week, ready to put this on the shelf and make a fool of myself at the table. And sometimes when you eat too much food, you get sweaty. So stay sweaty, my friends.
And eat a lot of turkey.
Train hard, train smart, be thankful for your teammates, your training partners, and the jiu-jitsu community. Get better, guys. We'll see you on the mats.
And you can also take a nap.
That is a Thanksgiving Day requirement as far as I'm concerned.
Or just pass out.
Same thing in the end.
Which we do in jiu-jitsu, so we got a lot of practice.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.